When the IRS agent handed my ex-wife the asset seizure notice in front of her affair partner, she looked at me across that government office like I'd personally betrayed her. I just sipped my coffee and watched her world collapse. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Thomas Brennan. I'm 41 years old, and I used to think I had it all figured out. 12 years of marriage to Valerie, a woman I'd met during my MBA program at Northwestern. 2 beautiful kids, Owen and Lily, ages 9 and 7. A successful commercial real estate consulting firm I'd built from nothing. A house in the suburbs worth $1.3 million. The whole package. I should have seen it coming, but when you're working 70-hour weeks building something, you miss things. Or maybe you just don't want to see them. It started small. Valerie began going to the gym more. Not unusual, she'd always been fitness conscious. Then came the new wardrobe, the expensive haircuts. The manicures every week instead of every month. She told me she was investing in herself, getting back to who she was before kids. I supported it, encouraged it even. What kind of husband would I be if I didn't want my wife to feel good about herself? The phone habits changed next. She'd always been on her cell, but now it went everywhere with her. Bathroom, shower, even just walking to get the mail, face down on every surface. Passwords changed without explanation. When I asked about it casually one morning over coffee, she got defensive. "Why do you need to see my phone, Thomas? Don't you trust me?" That line, that classic deflection line that every cheater uses to make the betrayed person feel like they're the problem. I backed off, but something in my gut twisted. I'm a numbers guy, an analyst by training. Patterns are my specialty, and this pattern was screaming at me. I didn't hire a private investigator right away. Instead, I started paying attention. Really paying attention, not in an obvious way. I'm better than that. I just observed with the same analytical eye I used to evaluate commercial properties worth millions. Valerie started volunteering at Owen's school 3 afternoons a week. Except when I checked with the school administration during a parent-teacher conference, they had no record of her volunteering at all. She was on the gym from 6 to 8 p.m. every Tuesday and Thursday. Her gym had security cameras in the parking lot. I'd been there enough times to know. So one Thursday, I drove by at 7:15. Her Mercedes wasn't there. Hadn't been there at 6:30 either, according to the timestamp on the photo I'd taken then. The credit card statements told their own story. Lingerie from boutiques I'd never seen her wear anything from. Dinner charges at restaurants we'd never been to together, always for 2 people based on the amounts. Hotel charges in the city during hours she was supposedly shopping with her sister. I could have confronted her then. Most men would have. Kicked in the door during one of her gym sessions, found her with whoever he was, made a huge scene. Gotten everything on video for the divorce attorney. But I'm not most men. I'm a strategist. And I had something far more valuable than evidence of infidelity. I had a plan. 3 years earlier, my real estate firm had gone through a rough patch. We'd overextended on a commercial development project that fell through when the anchor tenant backed out. The firm owed the IRS approximately $470,000 in back taxes from capital gains we'd already spent on the failed project. My accountant, Gerald, had worked out a payment plan with the IRS, but there was a lien on the business accounts until the debt was fully paid. As of that moment, we still owed $342,000. The business account and our joint personal account were technically separate, but here's where it got interesting. Under the terms of the IRS agreement, any large transfers from the joint account to pay business expenses had to be documented. And there was a clause, one of those dense legal paragraphs Gerald had explained to me in detail. That said, if marital funds were used to satisfy business debts, both account holders were responsible for the transactions. Valerie was on that joint account. She'd signed the paperwork when we'd opened it 8 years ago. She'd never paid attention to the business side of things, had zero interest in tax law or corporate structure. She just knew we had money and she had access to it. The account had $600,000 in it. My emergency fund, built up over years of profitable deals and careful saving. Money I'd planned to use to eventually buy out my business partner and own the firm completely. So I made a decision that seemed insane to everyone I eventually told about it. I decided to let her take it. First, I needed confirmation of the affair, not just suspicions and credit card receipts. I needed to know exactly who, exactly when, exactly how serious it was. So I did hire that private investigator after all. Cost me $5,000 for 2 weeks of surveillance. His name was Rick Paulson, former Chicago PD detective who'd gone private after 20 years on the force. Efficient, thorough, and completely discreet. The photos came back within 10 days. Valerie and a man named Derek Ashford. 43, divorced, owned a struggling luxury car dealership in the city. From what Rick discovered, they'd met at some charity gala I'd skipped because of a work trip. Been seeing each other for 7 months. 7 months. Over half a year of lies, of looking me in the eyes while she kissed me goodbye, of sleeping in our bed while planning her exit strategy. The photos showed them at hotels, at his condo downtown, at romantic dinners. One particularly damning set showed them at a jewelry store, where he was trying on an expensive watch while she laughed and held his arm. The receipt showed she'd paid for it, $18,000 on our credit card for her boyfriend's Rolex. Rick's report included financial information on Derek. The struggling dealership wasn't just struggling, it was hemorrhaging money. He was 6 months behind on his condo mortgage, had 2 maxed-out credit cards, and was facing a lawsuit from a former business partner. The guy was broke and desperate. Everything clicked into place. She wasn't just having an affair. She was preparing to leave me for him, and she was going to use our money to finance their new life together. Perfect. I sat in my home office that night, kids asleep upstairs, Valerie at book club or wherever she really was, and I called Gerald. "I need you to explain that IRS Lien clause to me again," I said. "Every detail, every implication." He walked me through it. Any money transferred from the joint account, because of its connection to the business account through me, fell under the purview of the tax lien. If someone withdrew funds, they were technically withdrawing money that the IRS had a claim to until the debt was satisfied. The IRS could pursue recovery of those funds, including seizure of any assets purchased with them. "But Gerald," I said slowly, "what if Valerie withdrew the money? She's on the account. Would the IRS come after her?" There was a long pause. Gerald's a smart guy. He knew something was up. "Thomas, if Valerie made substantial withdrawals from that account, especially if she did it without your knowledge or consent, and especially if she used those funds for personal expenses not related to marital necessity, then yes. The IRS could pursue her for recovery. They could seize any assets purchased with those funds, and depending on how it played out, she could face criminal charges for knowingly evading a federal tax lien. Even if she didn't know about the lien, ignorance isn't a defense with the IRS, Thomas. She signed the account. Paperwork, that makes her liable. But listen, whatever you're thinking." "I'm not thinking anything," I interrupted. "Just want to understand my exposure. Thanks, Gerald." I hung up and sat back in my leather chair looking at the family photo on my desk. Owen and Lily at the beach last summer building sandcastles, Valerie with her arm around me smiling. That smile I'd fallen in love with in a university library 13 years ago. That woman was gone. In her place was a stranger who was stealing from our children's future to finance an affair with a broke con artist. So I did something that would either be brilliant or incredibly stupid. I stopped monitoring the account. I removed all the banking alerts from my phone. I stopped checking the balance. I made sure my paycheck and business distributions went into a separate account I opened solely in my name at a different bank. I kept exactly $50,000 in the joint account for plausible deniability, enough that if questioned later I could claim I'd thought it was the regular balance. Then I waited. It took 3 weeks. I came home from work on a Wednesday afternoon, and Valerie was in the kitchen making dinner like everything was normal. Chicken parmesan, my favorite. She was humming. "Good day?" I asked, kissing her cheek, playing the oblivious husband. "Great day," she said brightly, too brightly. "I went shopping with Teresa. Got some new things for the house." Teresa was her sister. I'd already confirmed with Teresa's husband 2 weeks ago that they hadn't been shopping together in months. "That's nice," I said. "Kids okay?" "Perfect. Owen has soccer practice tomorrow, don't forget." We ate dinner as a family. I helped Lily with her math homework, put both kids to bed and read them stories, kissed Valerie goodnight and went to sleep beside a woman who was robbing us blind. Over the next 4 months, I watched our marriage end in slow motion. Valerie became almost manic with happiness. She lost weight, her skin glowed, she laughed more. All the signs everyone always says indicate someone either having an affair or falling back in love with their spouse. She wasn't falling back in love with me. Rick's surveillance continued, paid from my separate account. The photos showed Derek's lifestyle dramatically improving. New suits. The condo mortgage suddenly current. His dealership got a mysterious cash infusion, $50,000, according to Rick's contact at the business licensing office. Restaurant charges doubled. Hotel suites instead of standard rooms. A weekend trip to Napa Valley that Valerie told me was a spa retreat with Teresa. I played my role perfectly. The busy husband, distracted by work. I took on extra projects, stayed late at the office, gave her every opportunity to dig her hole deeper. When she asked for my signature on some household expense forms, I signed without reading them. When she suggested we refinance some investments, I agreed absently. All the while, I was documenting everything. Every lie, every absence, every credit card charge. Building a file that would make any divorce attorney salivate. But I didn't want just a divorce. I wanted justice. 5 months after I'd stopped monitoring the account, Valerie made her move. I came home on a Friday evening to find her sitting in the living room with 2 suitcases packed. Owen and Lily were at her mother's house. She dropped them off that morning for what she'd told them was a special grandma weekend. "Thomas, we need to talk," she said. Her voice was steady, rehearsed. She'd practiced this. I set down my briefcase slowly. "Okay. I'm not happy anymore. I haven't been for a while. I think we both know this marriage isn't working." I just looked at her, didn't give her anything. Years of negotiating commercial deals worth millions had taught me the power of silence. She continued, gaining confidence from my lack of response. "I've met someone. His name is Derek. He makes me feel alive again, Thomas. Feel seen. Something you haven't done in years." "I see," I said quietly. "I want a divorce, an amicable one for the kids. I'm not trying to destroy you or take everything. I just want to move on with my life. I've already talked to an attorney. I'll send you her information." This was the moment where most betrayed spouses explode, break down, beg, or threaten. She was expecting one of those reactions. Counting on it probably to justify her narrative of me as the emotionally unavailable husband. I just nodded. "If that's what you want," she blinked, thrown off. "That's it, that's all you have to say? What do you want me to say, Valerie? You've clearly made up your mind. You've got your bags packed. You've already moved on emotionally. Fighting about it now seems pointless." She actually looked disappointed, like she'd wanted the big dramatic scene to make herself the victim in this story. "I'll have my attorney contact yours next week," I continued calmly. "We'll work out custody and assets. I assume you'll want to stay in the house until we figure out the arrangements." "Actually," she said, and here came the confidence again, "I've already put a deposit on an apartment. Downtown. I'm moving out this weekend." "Downtown apartments aren't cheap," I observed neutrally. "I have resources," she said, and I could hear the smugness underneath. "I've been planning this for a while, Thomas. I'm not leaving empty-handed. I've made sure I'll be taken care of." "Of course," I said. "Well, I hope you'll be happy." She stood up, grabbed her suitcases. "Derek is picking me up in 20 minutes. I'll come back for the rest of my things next week when you're at work. Take your time." She looked at me one more time, and I saw something flicker across her face. Confusion, maybe, or the beginning of doubt. But then it was gone, replaced by relief and anticipation. "Goodbye, Thomas. Goodbye, Valerie." Walked out the door of our house, our marriage, our family, and I sat down on the couch where we'd watched 1,000 movies together and let out a long breath. Then I picked up my phone and called Gerald. "It's time," I said. "She's gone, took the money and left. I need you to file the notification with the IRS first thing Monday morning." "Thomas, are you absolutely sure about this? Once I file, there's no taking it back. The IRS will investigate, and if they find what we think they'll find, I'm sure." She stole from her own children to finance an affair with a con artist. She chose this. File the paperwork. There was a pause. "Okay, I'll need you to come in Monday morning with all the documentation, bank statements, withdrawal records, everything." "I have it all. Monday morning, 8 a.m. The weekend was strange. I had Owen and Lily, told them Mom was having a grown-up timeout and needed some space. Kids are resilient. They accepted it easily enough, probably because they'd sensed the tension between their mother and me for months. Saturday afternoon, I got a text from Valerie. A photo of her and Derek at an expensive restaurant, champagne glasses raised, both grinning like idiots. The caption said, "Finally happy." I didn't respond. Monday morning, I met Gerald at his office with 3 accordion files full of documentation. Bank statements showing every withdrawal Valerie had made over the past 5 months. Credit card statements showing what she'd spent the money on. Hotel receipts, jewelry purchases, cash advances. The private investigators report with photos of Derek and Valerie together. Photos of Derek's improving lifestyle. Documentation of the IRS lien on the business accounts and its connection to our joint account. Gerald spread it all out on his conference room table and whistled low. "She took almost everything," he said, reviewing the bank statements. $342,000 from the joint account over 5 months. That's not even subtle. She thought she was clever, I said. Spread it out enough that I might not notice if I wasn't paying attention, but not so slow that I could stop her if I did notice. And you just let her do it. I just let her do it. Gerald shook his head. I've been an accountant for 26 years, Thomas. I've never seen anything like this. You set a trap using federal tax law. That's cold. She was stealing from our children's college funds to buy her boyfriend Rolexes, I said flatly. I'm not the villain here. No, Gerald agreed. You're really not. Okay, let's file this. Fair warning, the IRS doesn't move fast. It could take weeks or even months for them to investigate and take action. I can wait, I said. I've been patient this long. The paperwork went to the IRS that afternoon. Gerald filed a formal notification that substantial funds subject to a federal tax lien had been inappropriately withdrawn from a joint account by a co-holder without proper documentation or consent. He included every piece of evidence we had. Then I waited. Valerie's divorce attorney contacted mine 2 days later. The demands were predictable. She wanted half of everything. The house, my business, my retirement accounts. Full custody of the kids with me getting standard visitation. Alimony, child support, her legal fees paid. My attorney, Patricia Chen, was a shark in a designer suit who'd handled my business incorporation and several major contract disputes. She was expensive, ruthless, and exactly who I needed. She's dreaming, Patricia said, reviewing the demands over lunch. First of all, we have documentation of adultery. Illinois is a no-fault divorce state, but adultery absolutely impacts asset division and custody. Second, you're the primary earner and always have been. Third, based on what you've told me about where she got the money for her new lifestyle, she's about to have serious federal problems that make this divorce petition look like a parking ticket. How long until we respond? I asked. I'll file our counterpetition by end of week. We'll offer her a reasonable settlement, split custody, no alimony given the adultery and her independent income. She walks away with her car and personal possessions. Take it or leave it. She won't take it. No, Patricia agreed. She won't. She thinks she has leverage because she has money now, so we'll let her reject it and head toward litigation. By the time we get to court, her situation will be very different. The counterpetition was served 3 days later. Valerie's response came through her attorney within hours. She rejected every term, called my offer insulting, and threatened to drag me through court for years if necessary. Perfect. For the next 6 weeks, I focused on work and being a present father. Owen and Lily split time between me and Valerie according to a temporary arrangement, 1 week with me, 1 week with her. When they were with her, they were at her new downtown apartment, being introduced to Derek as Mommy's special friend. Rick's surveillance showed Derek had moved into Valerie's apartment. They were playing house with my money, living the high life. Designer furniture, new car for Valerie, a BMW 7 Series. Derek's dealership was suddenly thriving again. They took a vacation to Miami, stayed at the Fontainebleau, posted photos all over social media. Valerie looked radiant in every photo. Happy. Free. Living her best life while I played single dad in the suburbs. I didn't care. I kept waiting. The call from Gerald came on a Tuesday morning in early May, 8 weeks after the initial IRS filing. Thomas, they're moving. The investigation is complete. They found everything we documented and more. They're classifying it as knowing evasion of a federal tax lien with intent to conceal assets. They're issuing asset seizure notices today. Today? My heart rate picked up for the first time in months. Today, the agent assigned to the case is thorough. He found the money trail exactly where we said it would be. Derek's dealership cash infusion, the BMW lease in Valerie's name, the furniture, the jewelry, the whole works. All purchased with funds subject to the federal lien. They're seizing everything. Criminal charges? Not yet, but it's on the table depending on her cooperation. The IRS wants their money back first. Charges come later if she fights it. She'll fight it, I said. She thinks she's untouchable. Then she's about to learn a very expensive lesson. The agents will be at her apartment in approximately 2 hours. You're listed as a cooperative witness and affected party. The agent wants you present to verify the timeline and your non-participation in the withdrawals. 2 hours later, I was sitting in a government office building downtown with IRS agent Samuel Morrison, a man in his 50s with the demeanor of someone who'd seen every scheme, every excuse, and every crocodile tear in the book. Mr. Brennan, he said, reviewing the file, I have to say this is one of the more unusual cases I've handled. Your wife systematically withdrew funds subject to a federal tax lien over 5 months, used them to finance an extramarital affair, and purchase substantial assets with the proceeds. And according to your statement and your accountant's testimony, you were aware of the account access but did not monitor or prevent the withdrawals. That's correct, I said carefully. I trusted my wife. I had no reason to believe she would steal from our joint account to the point of nearly emptying it. When I finally checked the balance and saw what had happened, I contacted my accountant immediately. It wasn't technically a lie. I had trusted her once. And I did contact Gerald immediately, just not in the way the timeline suggested. Agent Morrison nodded slowly. And you're willing to cooperate fully with asset recovery? Absolutely. I want to satisfy the tax obligation and recover what can be recovered for my family. My children's financial security was destroyed by her actions. Understood. The asset seizure team is executing the notices now. This may take several hours. You're welcome to wait here or we can contact you when it's complete. I'll wait, I said. 3 hours later, Agent Morrison returned with a female agent named Chen and a tablet full of photographs. It's done, Morrison said. We've seized the BMW. It was leased with funds from the account, so the lease is void. The furniture in the apartment, purchased with a credit card paid from the account. Jewelry worth approximately $40,000. A Rolex watch registered to Derek Ashford. That was interesting. She claimed it was a gift, but we have the receipt with her signature. Cash infusion to Mr. Ashford's business. We've frozen his business accounts pending investigation of his knowledge and involvement. Derek's accounts, too. I asked. Mr. Ashford accepted a substantial cash gift from someone evading a federal tax lien. At best, he's an unwitting accomplice. At worst, he's complicit. Either way, he's part of the investigation now. Agent Chen pulled up photos on the tablet. This is from the apartment seizure. As you can see, Ms. Brennan was not cooperative. The photos showed Valerie's face frozen in shock, then rage, then fear. The apartment stripped of its expensive furniture marked with seizure tags. Derek standing beside her looking pale and confused. She requested to contact you, Morrison said. Multiple times, demanded it actually, said you could explain this was all a mistake. What did you tell her? That you were already here cooperating with the investigation and had provided the documentation that led to this seizure. She didn't take it well. I imagine not. Morrison closed the tablet. Mr. Brennan, I want to be very clear about something. This case will likely result in criminal prosecution. Your ex-wife's actions meet the threshold for knowing evasion of federal tax obligations. The prosecutor will determine whether to file charges, but given the amount involved and the deliberate pattern of withdrawals and concealment, I'd say charges are likely. I understand. You'll need to be available for testimony if this goes to trial. Of course, whatever you need. Morrison studied me for a long moment. You know, in my 23 years with the IRS, I've learned that the most dangerous people aren't the ones who fight and scream. They're the ones who stay calm and let the process work. You're a very calm man, Mr. Brennan. I believe in following the rules, I said evenly. That's all I've done here, followed the rules. He nodded slowly. Yes, you have, to the absolute letter. Well, the seizure is complete. We've recovered approximately $218,000 in assets and frozen accounts containing another $46,000. That leaves a shortfall of roughly $78,000. We'll continue pursuing recovery, but wanted you aware of the numbers. What happens to Valerie now? That's up to her and her attorney. She can cooperate, provide documentation of all expenditures, help us recover the remaining funds, and the prosecutor might show leniency. Or she can fight, claim ignorance, refuse to cooperate, and face the full weight of federal charges. Most people choose cooperation. And Derek, Mr. Ashford is claiming complete ignorance of the source of the funds. Says Ms. Brennan told him she'd received an inheritance. We're investigating that claim. If he genuinely didn't know, he's just an idiot who lost his sugar mama. If he knew, he's facing charges too. I left the federal building at 7 p.m. feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Not satisfaction exactly, not joy, more like closure. The machinery of justice was in motion, impersonal and inevitable. My phone rang before I reached my car. Valerie, I let it go to voicemail. She called 6 more times during my drive home. Then the text started. How could you do this to me? This is entrapment. My attorney says you set me up. You're destroying the mother of your children. Please, Thomas, call me back. We can fix this. Derek left. He just left, took his things and left. Are you happy now? I have nothing. They took everything. Please. The kids need their mother. Don't do this to them. I'll give it all back. I'll make it right. Please make them stop. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I stopped at a pizza place, picked up Owen and Lily's favorite toppings, and went home to my kids. Owen and Lily were in the living room when I arrived, staying with the babysitter I'd hired for the evening. They ran to hug me and I held them tight, breathing in the smell of their shampoo, feeling their small arms around my waist. We got pizza. Lily squealed when she saw the boxes. With extra cheese, just how you like it, I said, ruffling her hair. We ate dinner together. They told me about their day at school, about Owen's upcoming soccer game, about Lily's art project. Normal kid stuff. Beautiful, innocent, normal kid stuff. They asked when they'd see Mom again. Soon, I told them. Mom's dealing with some grown-up things right now, but you'll see her soon. After they went to bed, I sat in my home office and finally listened to Valerie's voicemails, each one more desperate than the last. In the final one, she was crying. Thomas, please. I know I hurt you. I know what I did was wrong. But I'm begging you, please help me. They're talking about criminal charges, federal charges. I could go to prison, please, for Owen and Lily, please. I deleted them all the next morning. Patricia called. I assume you've heard about your wife's IRS problems, she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. I may have heard something about it. Her attorney called me in a panic this morning. Valerie wants to settle immediately. She'll accept our original terms, split custody, no alimony. She walks away with her car and personal possessions. Except, well, she doesn't have a car anymore or many possessions. The IRS took them. What's she offering then? Nothing. She has nothing to offer. She's asking if you'd be willing to help her with her legal defense fund in exchange for a quick, clean divorce. I laughed. Actually laughed out loud. He stole from our children to finance her affair, and now she wants me to pay for her criminal defense attorney? That's the request. I told her attorney it was insane, but I said I'd pass it along. Tell them no, we'll proceed with the original counterpetition. She can sign it or we go to trial, her choice. Understood. For what it's worth, Thomas, I've been doing this for 19 years. I've never seen anyone play the long game quite like you did. That was impressive, terrifying, but impressive. I just wanted what was fair, I said. You wanted revenge, and you got it. Legal, completely justified, absolutely devastating revenge. There's something almost beautiful about it. The divorce papers were signed 2 weeks later. Valerie came to Patricia's office looking like a ghost of herself. She'd lost weight, had dark circles under her eyes, and her hands shook as she signed each page. Derek wasn't with her. According to Rick's final surveillance report, Derek had moved back into his ex-wife's garage and was trying to salvage what was left of his dealership after the IRS had frozen, and then released his accounts following their investigation. They determined he genuinely hadn't known about the Lien. He was just a moron who'd gotten lucky and then unlucky in rapid succession. I hope you're happy, Valerie said to me as we waited for the notary. It was the first time we'd been in the same room since she'd left. I'm not happy or unhappy, I said honestly. I'm just done. You destroyed my life. No. Valerie, you destroyed your life. I just declined to save you from the consequences of your own choices. The IRS agent said you provided all the documentation. You knew what would happen and you let me do it anyway. I knew you were stealing from our family. What the IRS chose to do with that information was their decision, not mine. You signed those withdrawal slips. You spent that money. You ignored the tax lien that you co-signed paperwork acknowledging. Every single action was yours. You could have stopped me. Why? So you could just find another way to finance your affair, so you could keep lying to me, to our kids, to everyone. You made your choice when you decided Derek Ashford was worth more than 12 years of marriage and 2 children. She was crying now, silent tears running down her face. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. Mistakes are forgetting to pick up milk. Mistakes are bouncing a check. What you did was calculated, sustained betrayal over 7 months. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. A series of choices. The notary came in then, ending the conversation. We signed the final papers. The marriage was over. As Valerie left, her attorney pulled Patricia aside. I caught pieces of the conversation. Federal prosecutor was still deciding on charges. They'd recovered most of the assets, but there was still a shortfall. Valerie had no money for a defense attorney if charges were filed. Her family had cut her off after learning what she'd done. Derek wasn't taking her calls. She was alone. The federal charges came 6 weeks later. 1 count of evasion of federal tax obligations, 1 count of asset concealment, 2 counts of making false statements to federal investigators. Apparently, during her initial interview with Agent Morrison, she claimed she didn't know about the IRS lien and had never seen any paperwork about it. Gerald had copies of her signature on the original lien acknowledgement from 3 years ago. She'd signed it at our kitchen table while eating breakfast, barely glancing at it. But she'd signed it. And lying to a federal agent is its own crime. Her public defender negotiated a plea deal. She pled guilty to the evasion charge. In exchange, the other charges were dropped. Sentencing guidelines called for 18 to 24 months in federal prison, but because she had no prior record and was a mother of minor children, the prosecutor recommended 12 months with supervised release after. The judge gave her 15 months. I was in the courtroom when she was sentenced. Owen and Lily were at school. They didn't need to see that. Valerie stood before the judge looking smaller than I'd ever seen her, and when the judge asked if she had anything to say, she just shook her head. "Ms. Brennan," the judge said, a woman in her 60s with steel-gray hair and sharp eyes, "you had every advantage. Education, family, financial stability. You chose to throw it away for an affair and a lifestyle you hadn't earned. Worse, you stole from your own family and then lied to federal investigators about it. The court shows leniency because of your children, who are the real victims here. But make no mistake, you will serve this time. You will understand that actions have consequences. Perhaps when you're released, you'll be ready to be the mother your children deserve." Valerie was taken into custody immediately. She looked back at me once before they led her away. I don't know what she was looking for. Forgiveness? Sympathy? Satisfaction? I gave her nothing. Just looked back at her with the same calm expression I'd maintained through this entire process. Then I left the courthouse and went to pick up my kids from school. The hardest part was explaining to Owen and Lily where their mother had gone. I didn't lie to them. They're smart kids, and they deserved the truth in age-appropriate terms. Mom made some really bad choices with money. I told them that evening as we sat together on the couch. She took money that wasn't supposed to be taken, and she lied about it. When grown-ups do things like that, there are serious consequences. She has to go away for a while to a place where people go when they break important rules. "Like jail?" Owen asked. He was 9, old enough to understand more than I wished he had to. "Yes, like jail, but she's going to be okay. She'll be safe. And when she comes back, she'll be able to see you again." "Is it our fault?" Lily asked in a small voice, and my heart broke. I pulled her close. "No, baby, not even a little bit. This is about choices Mom made, adults' choices that have nothing to do with you. You are loved by me, by Mom, by everyone in our family. That never changes," they cried. I held them and let them cry and wondered how Valerie could have risked losing this. These moments, these incredible human beings we'd created together. How could anything be worth risking this? But I knew the answer. She'd convinced herself she was unhappy, that she deserved more, that the rules didn't apply to her, that she could have it all without consequences. She'd been wrong. Life moved forward. Owen and Lily adjusted better than I'd expected. Kids are resilient like that. We established new routines. I cut back my hours at work, hired a part-time nanny for after school, made sure I was present for every game, every recital, every parent-teacher conference. The IRS eventually recovered enough assets to close the lien. My business was finally clear. I bought out my partner 6 months later and became sole owner of the firm. Business was booming. Apparently word had gotten around about my situation, and several clients specifically sought me out because they respected how I'd handled it. Valerie served 13 months of her 15-month sentence, got 2 months off for good behavior. She was released to a halfway house, then to supervised release. She found a job as a receptionist at a dental office, lived in a small apartment, drove a 15-year-old Honda Civic. She followed every term of her supervised release to the letter, reported to her parole officer weekly, attended the required financial responsibility classes, paid what she could on the restitution still owed, and slowly, carefully, she rebuilt a relationship with Owen and Lily. Supervised visits at first at my house with me present, then unsupervised visits at her apartment, then weekends. The kids love their mother. Whatever she did, whatever mistakes she made, she's still their mom. I never spoke badly about her to them, never told them details they didn't need to know. They'd figure it out themselves when they were older. For now, they just needed to know both their parents loved them. Did I feel guilty? Sometimes. Late at night, when I was alone, I'd wonder if I could have stopped her earlier, if I could have confronted her before it went too far. If letting her destroy herself was the right choice or just the satisfying one. But then I'd remember the 7 months of lies, the hotel receipts, the $18,000 watch she bought her boyfriend while our kids wore hand-me-downs, The way she'd looked at me with such confidence when she left, so sure she'd won, so certain she'd outsmarted me. And I'd remember that I didn't destroy Valerie. She destroyed herself. I just declined to be collateral damage. 2 years after the divorce, I was having coffee with Gerald, who'd become not just my accountant but a genuine friend through this whole process. "You ever regret it?" he asked. "The way you handled things?" I thought about it, really thought about it. "No," I said finally. "I regret the marriage ending. I regret my kids having to go through this. I regret that Valerie made the choices she made. But the way I responded to those choices, no, I don't regret that. You could have just divorced her. Fought it out in court normally. You didn't have to bring the federal government down on her. She wasn't just cheating, Gerald. She was stealing from our children's future, from their college funds, their security, their stability. She was so blinded by her affair and her greed that she didn't even think about what she was doing to them. Someone needed to stop her. The IRS stopped her. And you just happened to know they would. I understood the law. I followed the rules. She didn't. That's the only difference between us." Gerald shook his head with a slight smile. "You're a dangerous man, Thomas Brennan. Remind me never to cross you." "Just don't steal from me or my family," I said. "That's all it takes to stay on my good side." 3 years after the divorce, Valerie came to the house to pick up the kids for her weekend. She'd been doing better, got promoted to office manager at the dental practice, bought a decent used car, moved to a better apartment. She was in therapy, working on herself, rebuilding her life. She stood in the doorway for a moment before leaving, Owen and Lily already in her car. "Thomas," she said, "can I ask you something?" "Sure. Did you ever love me, really love me? Because sometimes I wonder if this was all just calculated from the start, like you were always 10 steps ahead, always planning." I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman I'd spent 12 years with, built a life with, created children with. "I loved you more than anything," I said quietly. "Right up until the moment I realized you'd chosen someone else. After that, after that you became a problem to solve, and I'm very good at solving problems." She nodded slowly, tears in her eyes. "I destroyed the best thing I ever had, didn't I?" "Yes," I said simply. "You did. I'm sorry. For what it's worth, I'm sorry." "I know you are, but sorry doesn't undo consequences. It just means you've learned from them." She left with the kids, and I watched them drive away. Owen waved from the back seat. Lily blew me a kiss. Through the window, that night I had dinner with a woman named Catherine. We'd met at a charity event 6 months earlier. She was a pediatric surgeon, brilliant and kind, with no patience for games or drama. We'd been taking things slowly, but it was good, healthy, built on honesty. Over wine, she asked me about my divorce. I told her the basics, but she wanted to know more. "Do you think you'll ever trust someone like that again?" she asked. "Completely, I mean, the way you trusted your ex-wife." I considered it. Trust isn't binary, it's not all or nothing. I trusted Valerie completely until she gave me reasons not to. Now I trust people proportionally to what they've earned and shown. You've earned a lot of trust in 6 months, Catherine, more than some people earn in years. "That's the most romantic thing a man has ever said to me," she said dryly, but she was smiling. "I'm a practical man." "Oh, I noticed. You're possibly the most practical man I've ever met. Some might say calculating. And yet you're still having dinner with me. Because calculating isn't the same as cruel. You didn't hurt your ex-wife out of spite or revenge. You just refused to protect her from herself. There's a difference. Not everyone sees it that way." "No," she agreed. "But I do, and that matters more than what everyone else thinks." We finished dinner and walked through the city, and for the first time in 3 years I felt something like hope, not for fixing what was broken, that was gone forever, but for building something new, something honest. 5 years after the divorce, Owen was 14 and Lily was 12. Smart, kind, well-adjusted kids despite everything. They saw their mother regularly, had good relationships with both of us. We managed to coexist at their school events, their games, their concerts. Valerie had completed her supervised release, paid off her restitution, rebuilt her credit slowly. She was dating someone new, a teacher, divorced with his own kids. A good guy who treated her well and, more importantly, treated Owen and Lily well. Derek Ashford had moved to Florida from what I'd heard. His dealership had eventually folded. Last I checked, he was managing a car rental place near Tampa. He never reached out to Valerie after she was arrested. Never visited her in prison. Never apologized for his role in the destruction of our family. But that was his burden to carry, not mine. I married Catherine on a Saturday afternoon in our backyard, with Owen as my best man and Lily as a bridesmaid. Valerie wasn't invited, but she sent a card. It said simply, "Congratulations, be happy, you deserve it." I kept the card in my desk drawer, not as a trophy or a reminder of victory, just as acknowledgement that we'd all survived. That life goes on, that people can grow and change and learn. But I never forgot the lesson. Trust is earned, betrayal has consequences, and sometimes the best revenge is just letting the universe do its work. People sometimes ask me if I'd do anything differently. If I could go back to that moment when I first suspected Valerie was cheating, would I handle it another way? The answer is no. Because here's what people don't understand. I didn't set out to destroy Valerie. I set out to protect my children's future and my own financial stability. The IRS lien was real. The law was real. The consequences were real. All I did was step aside and let reality take its course. Valerie made her choices. She chose the affair. She chose to steal from our family. She chose to lie to federal investigators. Every single action was hers. I just chose not to save her. And in the end, that made all the difference. Final reflection. Today, I'm 46 years old. Owen is applying to colleges, wants to study engineering. Lily is in 8th grade, excelling in everything she touches. Catherine and I have been married for a year, and she's the partner I should have had all along. Valerie is. Rebuilding her life one day at a time. She's a better mother now than she was during our marriage. Humbled, maybe, aware of what she almost lost completely. We'll never be friends, but we're functional co-parents, and that's enough. Sometimes late at night, I think about those 5 months when I watched her drain our account. When I knew exactly what was happening and chose to do nothing. When I let her build her own prison, brick by brick, withdrawal by withdrawal. Was it cruel? Maybe. Was it calculated? Absolutely. Was it justice? That's for others to decide. All I know is this: I promised to protect my children and provide for their future. When their mother chose to steal that future to finance an affair, I used every legal tool available to stop her and make sure it never happened again. The IRS wasn't my weapon. It was just the consequence she never saw coming. And sometimes the best revenge is just being patient enough to let someone defeat themselves. That's my story. No regrets. No apologies, just the truth. If you made it this far, hit that subscribe button. We tell stories like this every day, stories about betrayal, strategy, and justice. Real stories from real people who refuse to be victims. Because at the end of the day, the best revenge isn't rage. It's not violence. It's not even confrontation. It's just understanding the rules better than the person trying to break them, and then letting the chips fall where they may.